All right, folks, I think this is episode 24 of Going South. I have my guest today is Michael Smith. He is the executive director, I believe this title, or is it president?
Executive director or CEO. They're kind of
Gotcha. So he's the ED of the Greater Valdosta United Way, which has 30 agencies, partner agencies that work in 5 counties locally. Um, I checked the Chamber of Commerce. There's evidently 280 nonprofits in Lowndes County, but the United Way does all kinds of work with the Boys Club, Second Harvest, and Michael will talk some more about that. But he's a Valdosta native, graduated from Valdosta High School, as did I. He did it a lot later than I did. I think 95. I'm an 81 guy, so I'm an old man. He went on to VSU, get a bachelor's in business, played baseball. What position?
pitcher.
Oh, you pitched?
Mhm.
Oh, cool. Did you like after college play?
I played a little minor league ball with the Royals and the Tigers organization, but I was low level bus ride and peanut butter and jelly eating minor league ball.
That's the ball to watch.
Guys that made it to the bigs, and it was a good experience. But yeah, I was a left-handed pitcher, and we won a conference title while here at BSU, and a lot of good memories. So.
Oh yeah. It's America's game as far as I'm concerned. Prior to taking the position at the United Way a couple of years ago, he's a small businessman. His family had local businesses, so he kind of comes out of that world, knows that world well. And so Michael was kind enough to sit down and talk with me about the kind of the work of the United Way today, some of the agencies that serve folks. But one of the things we talked about on the phone that I hope we get to talk about today is the impact of COVID on local social service agencies and what the need is and so forth. So I'm really appreciative of him making time today out of his very busy schedule to chat with me. So
I'm glad to be here.
yeah, how did you move from private business, small business to nonprofit executive director?
Well, it's really funny. We were in the process of selling the Baytree Smitty store, and this job opportunity came up. The last director had left, and they were looking. And my uncle and my grandmother sent me the thing saying you ought to look into this. I didn't really know much about the United Way, but I served on a lot of nonprofit boards. I've done a lot of fundraisers, owning small business liquor stores. We've donated beer and wine to every charity and golf tournament and dinner. And I love my community. I care about my community. Like I said, I serve on a lot of boards, VSU, Wiregrass, the Tourism Authority, and served on some nonprofit boards. And I really like, and then when digging into it, the United Way, we try to be like the chamber for the nonprofit. We also try to raise money, advocate, market, but it's really the business side of nonprofit, which I really like because being a small business, I'm kind of running a small business. I love helping people, but I don't know about abused women and disabled children and homeless vets. I mean, that's not my background, but business and maybe helping these nonprofits be better run businesses and be able to help more people is something that I feel like I can do and build relationships. So it really seemed like a good fit. They had an intense hiring process. They narrowed it down from 15 to 3. And then luckily the sale went through, and I was able to move into this job. And we still had the other liquor store in Lake Park that I was able to check on for the past year. But now we've sold that. So I'm completely, out of running other side business, and just focused on nonprofit work in the United Way. And it really is a really good fit for me. And I have a great team and a great board. So that's kind of how it all came to be. I think it was just the right timing and the right opportunity.
Does Susan Noble still work for you?
She is. She's our new office manager. She's been working since October and doing a good job. She's got a lot to learn, but doing well.
So, yeah, she's a former student of mine, is why I asked.
Yeah, and she's got a master's degree, and we're very excited to bring her on board. And we may look at hiring another part-time, or we're trying to have some interns from DSU and stuff. We want to grow. It takes money, it takes people, to make a difference. It really, so.
Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge to making that shift?
I don't know. It's really been good. My team, the foundation was good. The board was good. The office was good. The staff was great. Just kind of repairing relationships, getting out and really maybe explaining what United Way is and what we're doing. We have a rich history nationally and locally, but for the last 5 to 10 years, it's kind of the United Way wasn't on the forefront of community activity like it needed to be. So kind of repairing relationships, I would say.
Gotcha. So can we just dive off into the COVID situation? You've got 30 agencies. Some of those include
20 partner agencies.
I'm sorry?
20 partner agencies.
20. I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm getting 30. They include Boys and Girls Clubs, LARC, Second Harvest, right? Let me see. You were kind enough to send me a list.
Yeah, Girls on the Run, Boy Scouts, YMCA, Red Cross.
Habitat.
Yep.
Yeah. How many of these do you think serve low income folks?
Oh, I would say, I mean, every one. We in our applications, you know, they have to designate that, and some are, you know, 100%, 90%, 70%, but pretty much everybody is serving, you know, low income people, because I mean, we are in rural Georgia and South Georgia. There's a lot of poverty and, you know, low paying jobs and, you know, a lot of the issues. So they all are touching it more. Now, like LAMP, the homeless shelter, is like 100%, you know, low income, because, you know, so.
When these agencies are in Berrien, Brooks, Eccles, Lanier, and Lowndes County. I guess that's why you're the greater.
We cover 5 counties, yes, sir. And we have good relationships with the other United Ways that cover, you know, Tifton and Moultrie, and even Albany's director is one of my good friends. So we try to take a regional approach and even a state approach. We have state calls with directors. Atlanta United Way is the largest United Way in the country. So it's nice to have them and their expertise to lean on too. So,
gotcha.
But
what's been the impact of COVID over the last year? I mean, really starting, I guess, last March. We're almost a year into it.
Oh, well, you know, we, like everybody, we had plans for a good year and different things, and then COVID hit, and it was, you know, all hands on deck. We were out delivering food, serving meals at Living Bridges, helping with Second Harvest food lines. When COVID hit, out of our 20 partner agencies, pretty much everybody shut down except the food bank and the shelters, because, you know, they couldn't. Then as a couple of months went by, you know, the Y and the Boys and Girls Club were opening back up. LARC was trying to open back up. People were trying to do what they could. By August, you know, pretty much everybody was operational. The Miracle League has had some issues when you're dealing with, you know, severely disabled people and trying to do stuff, but they've still been trying to do stuff. But them and ACTO, who deals with Alzheimer's, have had a tougher time opening because of the governor's orders and restrictions and the clientele they deal with. But ACTO is still delivering food boxes to seniors and medication. But one of the biggest things, I mean, the food bank has been feeding all of South Georgia and has stepped up so much with food insecurity. People don't get in line at 4 a.m. on a Saturday unless they really need the groceries. Yeah. But then childcare has been such a big issue, which the Y and the Boys Club, we partner with agencies, but we fund programs. So there's around 40 programs that we're giving money towards. We don't cover all of those costs, but that's what one is, like after school scholarships for the Y and the Boys and Girls Club. But, you know, when kids are not in school, it affects so many things. So luckily, you know, in South Georgia, we had some virtual, but for the most part, kids have been in class, and we haven't been as shut down as other parts of the state or country. But, you know, without kids going to school, you have lunches and breakfasts that are missed. You have bus transportation that's not happening. You have after school programs that aren't happening. You have parents that can't go to work. So that's been the big thing. I mean, schools are just so important for education, transportation. You know, if you have a 15-year-old, you can virtual learn different than if you have a 5-year-old at home. I mean, it's just, you know, you can leave a 15-year-old home while you go to work. You can't leave a 5 and an 8-year-old at home all day while you try to go to work. Yeah. So that's been a big thing. But I would say PPP has been instrumental in even keeping some of our partner agencies open. We were able to receive it. I know like Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Habitat, LAMP. I would say a few of our agencies would not even be open or been able to be in business without PPP, because when you shut down, funding shuts down. So not just small businesses, it helped nonprofits, because nonprofits are still a small business essentially. It's just operating differently. So PPP was huge. The biggest thing that changes was fundraisers. Every one of our partner agencies, fundraising budget was destroyed. We estimate close to $500,000 did not come in from fundraisers, whether that was dinners and golf tournaments and 5Ks from partner agencies this year. And, those fundraisers are so important for awareness, advocacy, marketing, and then also cash flow. You put on that 5K or that dinner to get your message out, but then also you plan on that $10,000 coming in May or July, when you have it budgeted. So fundraisers being canceled from March till essentially October at best was really devastating.
Gotcha. Do agencies, you said you fund 40 programs, do the agencies like apply for that funding for specific in-house programming? Is that how it works?
Yes, they do. This year we limited, each agency to apply for 3 different programs. And the board will look over and see if, where we want to fund. United Way's mission is health, education, and financial stability. So it's open-ended enough that you can really see what your community needs. And over time, we want to dig down into more partnering with agencies, but then also putting money towards impact. That's going to take a little bit of time to really figure out what our main issues are, whether that's racial relations, transportation, affordable housing, third grade, reading efficiency, all those things. Stable housing, good paying jobs, transportation, after school programs, workforce development. I mean, COVID exposed that there's a lot of problems and there's no silver bullet to fix anything. But over time, we do want to dig down into a few things that we can maybe concentrate on better and move the needle with.
So. Yeah. So what are agencies doing to like catch up? Like, what is United Way to do it to kind of help them catch up with things like fundraising?
Well, that's a very good question. One thing that I'm proud of, we raised close to $100,000 during COVID with disaster, and we got that money out to partner agencies. We've also paid a lot of utility bills. We do some direct services. Not all United Ways do that. We did a COVID grant where non-partner agencies could ask for $500 and partner agencies could ask for up to $1,500 to buy PPE, cleaning supplies, just some of those extra expenses that come up. The Boys and Girls Club needed a new smart board to do, classroom education. We were also able to get 10,000 masks. Well, we got 5 from SGMC to give out to partner agencies, and then we were able to get 35,000 masks from the Department of Human and Health Services that we distributed to agencies, nursing homes, school systems, churches, businesses. So that's been another big cost. These agencies, you can imagine a shelter, how much they've had to clean when you're trying to keep COVID out and feed people 3 meals a day and wash and clean and Lysol and sanitize. And they struggled for masks and Lysol and toilet paper just like everybody else. With our relationships with Publix and Target, they would kind of send me a text saying, we've got Clorox and wipes. And then I would text some of the agencies and they would run up and go buy what they could. So just kind of being that connection. The food bank was really big on that, not only giving out food, but they were able to get gloves and Lysol and stuff to help partner agencies too. So.
Gotcha. Well, I guess not only the financial end of it, a lot of these organizations rely on volunteers as well. And
that's been a devastating part, actually. Yes, sir. That is a big thing. You need manpower at the end of the day. Red Cross relies on a lot of volunteers 65 and older. It's kind of how their mission base is, and they're not able to do that. A lot of churches that have food pantries rely on volunteers, and churches being closed. The food bank, if it wasn't for the National Guard coming in, being extended from March now to the next March. And it was 90 days and they thought they were going to lose them in August, thought they were going to lose them in December. The food bank would not be able to get the food out. They have, between 40 and 60 National Guardsmen and women there daily packing those boxes. They've given out normally close to 17 million pounds. This year it was 25 million pounds of food. And you can't distribute that kind of food without people. So the National Guard has been huge to make sure things happen, because I was proud. We were one of the few United Ways in the state that still pulled off a day of caring. We did it in October. We had only 100, volunteers. We masked up. They were outside projects. But we got some good stuff done at our partner agencies, whether it was painting, landscaping, pressure washing, fixing things, because people wanted to get out, give back safely, but these agencies needed some work done. They just needed stuff accomplished. So I was really proud we were able to pull that off.
Yeah.
So.
In terms of what folks can do now besides kind of donate, like where would you point folks to?
Well, the biggest thing, we have a lot of information on our website. Reach out, connect with us, and us point them in the right direction. We're looking to do a day of caring in March, kind of a mini day of caring. We're working on some projects. I think we're going to be getting back to volunteers. Habitat's trying to get back to doing some building and stuff. Still being safe, but things are starting to come back with the vaccine. I mean, if you feel safe, if you're healthy, you have time to give that back, please do. Giving money, does help, but really what we want people to do is connect and find out what breaks your heart, what you care about, and how you can give back, because there's so many needs. I mean, I tell people, the sea turtles need help and the polar bears need help too, and it's okay that you care about one more than others. So, find out what you care about and let us help connect you to the agencies that do that, really.
Gotcha.
If you're passionate, you're going to connect and give more, Yeah.
Two other kind of service questions. Did you hear about, or did any of the agencies hear about people being displaced because of rent problems and all of that?
We're getting calls, more than we can handle, and people requesting more money than we can handle. And so same thing with Salvation Army. And it is a big issue. There's a lot of communication and coordination in the nonprofit sector. Of course, it can be better, and we're trying to lead that process with the Homeless Task Force and the Civic Roundtable, because there is money out there. It's just so segmented. But right now, it hasn't hit yet, but it is coming. Landlords have been as nice as possible. Georgia Power has been nice, city and county water departments, and people have gotten stimulus money, and a lot of people have used it to get caught up on bills or fix their cars and stuff. And luckily, Georgia is, open for business a lot more than other places. People are having more jobs and opportunity to work, but there is more pain coming. I do feel like there is the eviction crisis coming. We're seeing people that are getting their water and power cut off at this point, but it's hard to know who truly needs help, who isn't, who's done the best they can. I mean, it's just been an unfair suffering. If you're in the food and hospitality industry, you suffered a lot more than if you're a state employee that can work from home, and do stuff. There's a lot of people that haven't missed a paycheck through this pandemic, and there's a lot of people that have gone months without a paycheck. So.
Yeah, I've had those conversations with my friends who rant about wearing masks, and I wear a mask wherever I go. And when I've worked, I've worn a mask, or just people not going to work. And I found a real class divide between my white collar middle class folks that can telecommute and my working class friends that know they have to go to a place to get a check.
It is. And I mean, it's hard. That's where empathy and looking at your situation and looking at other people's situations different. Because yes, we need to mask up. We need to be smart. We do know about the virus. We need to know personal responsibility and health stuff, but we do have to move and live in society now. We know a lot more than we knew last March, but yeah.
People have to pay their bills.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's like you do see people that are like, everybody needs to stay home, but I want to make sure the grocery store person goes to work. I need
Yeah,
that
yeah,
truck driver to go to work. I need the
right.
Amazon
I
driver
want my
to go to
packages.
work. So, if you want the nurse to go to work, and there's jobs that you can do like we are and talk, or there's jobs that you actually have to be there to deliver. That baker has to go put the bread on the shelf. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said earlier, I mean, a lot of these problems were here. COVID seems to just pour gas on the fire in a way, and
well, and there were
brought
a
it to the
lot of
surface.
problems that happened during the financial crisis a
Right.
decade ago that we never fixed. We just printed money to kind of cover it up, and the
Yeah.
stock market recovered, but we never really fixed some societal issues. And now things are there. And COVID, I mean, a pandemic and virus is so different, but you're exactly right. I mean, the food bank people have worked their tails off. The hospitals worked their tail off. Grocery, Publix, Walmart, Winn-Dixie employees have worked so hard through all this. I mean, you know,
And put themselves at risk for the.
yes, yes. And like I said, the gas station clerk that, is standing behind the cash register, so you can get your coffee and pay for gas so you can go to work. I mean, and the truck driver that makes everything happen. So we have to look at the bigger picture. You still want your garbage picked up, that garbage, the trash pick person, has been working through this, the cops been working through this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, first responders, the whole 9 yards.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And really, we've been looking, I mean, I think you have to classify the food bank and the homeless shelter as first responders at this. We've really learned that we're all essential and things are different, and that there's a new respect for the people that, do those dirty jobs, or like you said, the first responder people.
Well, it's the folks that make the water come out of the pipes and go down the pipes and the electricity stay on. I have to talk to my liberal friends a lot of times about, conservative American, and they're liberals too, but a lot of conservative Americans make the country work,
Well, and
in
that's
terms of the everyday functioning of the things we need.
one of the toughest things we've dealt with, which is the politics. It was so hard between COVID and the election, and then the overtime election of what Georgia faced,
Yeah.
to even break through the noise of anything else besides COVID and the election, to tell people about community needs, community issues, and to look past left or right divide. And I believe Washington can argue, but here and locally we got to get along and work together, because we're all neighbors. We all are in the same fight. South Georgia is too small to argue. We have to work together and think regionally, because there's just not enough resources for us to argue about it.
Yeah, well, this would be a cool, because you mentioned race relations earlier, and I don't think it's just racial, it's political and a variety of things. But it'd be cool if, and I don't want to put this on your agency because it's kind of already overwhelmed, I'm sure, but I haven't seen really any concerted effort by local government or anybody to talk about unity, talk about being good neighbors to one another, talk about reconciliation and healing. And I don't know if you remember when I reached out to you. For the record, I heard Michael on Mayor Matheson's talk radio show, and so I think I messaged you and said, "Hey, man, I would really love to talk with you." And he was kind enough to do this. But I guess the question, like I told you back then, and I'm a lefty, right? But I've got plenty of people I love that are conservatives in my family and so on. But there doesn't seem to be any concerted effort or discussion of, well, how do we even do that? You know what I mean?
And I agree with that. I think, I mean, not to put anything, I think Leadership Lounge may be looking at some of that stuff with the history they have, and some talks. I think we are. I mean, our campaign was Community United before we came up with that last February. This next campaign is going to be Respond, Recover, Reimagine, and Rebuild. Live United now more than ever. Because that's another thing. We can't just go back the way it used to be. We have to rebuild and reimagine what nonprofit, what philanthropy, what community, what that network means, and how to help each other.
Yeah.
And we all have issues and biases and things, but you have to try to look at things through some empathy and other people's life experiences the best you can, and we would like to be involved in that. Personally, I think there are some issues where we've been so programmed not to talk about politics, race, religion for so long that we don't know how to have tough conversations honestly and openly without being angry.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Can I shift gears a little bit? Because you've been in the seat 3 years. And when I looked back over the history, I did a little homework kind of on 990s and so on. And this kind of gets into the area of nonprofits and some things I wanted your thoughts on, especially coming from the private sector, right? One of the things I've noticed about most agencies here is that they've grown. They keep growing, right? For example, and I won't name the nonprofit, but there's a local nonprofit that does really important work that's just about human survival. And years ago, they needed a grant writer. And so I had and have experience writing successful grants. So I went to interview for the job, and I was amazed that the ED was kind of bragging about the organization continuing to grow every year. And I said, well, shouldn't we be getting smaller? Shouldn't we, if we're not addressing the need? And I get the difference between servicing something, but it's what seems to me as a community, and it's something I wish we would talk about, is that each year there seems to be more need. Particularly in the South, it's kind of haunted by poverty, chronic poverty, multi-generational poverty. But, so this person kind of didn't understand even my question. And the other thing I've noticed with the nonprofits I've worked with and for, whether it's a board member, I was the ED of a race relations nonprofit here years and years ago. I was on their board for years, a crisis center and so forth, is that every time I've been interviewed for a job or a position, no one asked me to have an analysis of the problem we were serving. So for example, one job I worked in Orly West and Hudson Docket. And in my interview, there were some really, I thought, important questions they didn't ask me. Like, number one, how did this community get in this situation? Like, how did, having a diagnosis or analysis of what the problem is. And they also didn't ask me how I would feel about working myself out of a job. The kind of built-in assumption was that I was going to have this career for years and years and years doing this thing to this community to supposedly address an issue they're grappling with. And I got one of those jobs, the grant writing job. The person got frustrated with me because I asked that question, but in the nonprofit that I did work for, I just noticed a number of things, and most of these were brought up by the community that we were serving, that in some ways wasn't really about getting at the root causes of the problem. It was more about maintaining it. And not only that, most of us that worked in the nonprofit didn't live in the community that we were servicing. We didn't hire from that community. We had no board representation in any significant number from that community. I'm just bringing this up because I'm so glad you're new, and I'm so glad you come out of the private sector in a way, because there is a criticism of the nonprofit model, right? That
I agree with that. And there's also that criticism in like the church model, keeping programs that are dead, but you keep doing it instead of really looking like, does this still reach people, or is it not reaching people? Or are we just doing it because we've done it for 40 years?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And that's something we're trying to look at. It would be great if we didn't need, I would speak for these nonprofits saying they wish we didn't have to have a women's abuse shelter or a child abuse program, or if homelessness would go away. Now, what a lot of people I think look at go, well, if you close LAMP as a shelter, that doesn't mean homelessness doesn't.
Yeah, not at all. And nobody's saying close anything.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it would be great if there were problems that we could check off and say, hey, we've got kids at the 7th grade math and reading level that we need to achieve, and we're there now, and now let's move to this,
Well, and I think one of the things, was it fair to say, because you mentioned this earlier, so many of the things that we are talking about are linked to poverty to me. You know, when we talk about domestic violence and financial stressors, you see high rates of domestic violence. When you see homelessness, you see poverty generally. Even when you see child abuse or houselessness or food scarcity, all linked to poverty. And again, I think that's when I worked for this other nonprofit that got Lowndes County money. When I started trying to suggest to our director who lived in Cherry Creek, right, but we're working in the housing projects, that look, we need to be hiring from the communities we serve. You know, we need to be, actually the communities also should be defining what they need instead of those of us who don't live in the community defining what they need. And there were some empowered people in those neighborhoods that actually accused us of pimping them when we were writing grants in their name, right, for money that we hadn't even talked with them about. So it was interesting. And what I've seen when you try to have those hard conversations with people who are doing good work, a lot of times they get really pissed off and, you know, feel like people are ungrateful. For example, in that organization, one of the policy changes I suggested is let's make our salaries transparent to the community. You know, let's build human relationships. And not only that, some of us, myself included, should be working to transition myself out of a job so that the folks that we serve, I mean, because the biggest problem I've seen with most nonprofits, and again, I've been guilty of all of this, is they're really not accountable to the communities. They're oftentimes, and the communities are hurting so bad, they're grateful for anything, right? So we can get somebody that says how great we are, but they're not ever evaluated and assessed by the community in terms of effectiveness. And the nonprofit generally is accountable to the funding source that oftentimes limits what we can even do. And let me share one more story and I'll shut up. And I really want to hear what you think as a business guy. When I was living in Oregon, I did free consulting with the YWCA. And, you know, they're serving poor women working two jobs. And so one of their, you know, they're a nonprofit, and that's a problematic structure for a lot of folks, right? Because corporate foundations generally give money, right? And some of the corporations are the reason there aren't good paying jobs in some communities too, right? Or why there's systematic, you know, inequality. But so this women's organization wanted to work on increasing the minimum wage, and one of their funders, a major grocery store chain, called them and said, no, we don't think you need to be working on this. So they dropped it because they were kind of trapped with the funder, if that makes any sense. So there's a part of me, and I know beautiful, loving people that work in nonprofits and for grassroots organizations all over the country. But I feel like there's a conversation we need to be having that moves us from servicing situations to kind of changing them if we can, because what happens, and it seems like the data shows this, is that nonprofits generally grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, need more and more and more and more. And we're, you know what I mean? Like if we're really about addressing these needs that are creating the services that are in high demand, it seems like we should be having that conversation too. I mean, is that totally unfair? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I mean, I think before COVID, I mean, things were improving. I think COVID has been a tidal wave that changed everything. I mean, you've had more people that are still unemployed than at the height of the financial crisis, and we've had more first-time people that have called needing utility help, groceries, that never needed help, or they do.
Yeah.
They, you know, they're husband and wife, and they both had jobs, but they had their hours cut and laid off. So the need is bigger. So I think. But I mean, I think in some points you are. I mean, a good paying job, moving things. I think a lot of times we address the symptoms and not really the cause of some issues. But we've thrown so much money for the last 50 years at education and poverty, and we really haven't made the increases. What I agree with you saying is we've got to look at it from a different angle. If money alone was going to solve it, it would be solved by now. Yeah. We've got to do financial education, educating people on their health, educating people on how to treat their kids and treat other people around them. And, you know, and like you're talking about people, you know, living in good areas of town and all that. I mean, I take it for granted that my car is going to crank 99% of the time.
Or that you have a car.
Yeah. And when it doesn't, it's a battery and it's an easy fix.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have transportation or reliable transportation or a safe home and a loving family and, and after school programs. And that's just a big thing. Like you said, if you've got a 6-month-old or a 16-year-old at home, that's two totally different situations of what you're dealing with on childcare and issues. So we're all in the same storm, but we all have different boats that we're in it. And it's a lot easier to survive a bad storm if you're in a big boat,
With that, and I think what you said this earlier, and it's so important, even the people that were doing okay, COVID really showed how little time people and money saved that most folks have every day. Do you know what I mean? That all of a sudden people find themselves without food or without housing, and you know what I mean? Like,
there's a book that came out around '09, right before the financial crisis, called High Wire, The Precarious Situation of America's Middle Class. And it really changed my life. And it laid out everything that we've experienced through the financial crisis and now. Yeah. We have 2 parent incomes, which that means we're relying on both people being work.
Which has all kinds of impact on family if both people are working all the time.
Yeah. And then you also have people who are now responsible for their own retirement because there's not pensions, which is tough. Most people aren't responsible of saving and doing their own money or financially investing. Right. And it just has, and it talked about unemployment being such a small amount of money versus somebody that's a higher earning. Now we have extended unemployment for a lot longer than what that book said, but it really talked about like the middle class, or a lot of us, or just one major health care. You may have good savings, but then cancer, a car wreck could break you financially. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that are a lot closer to the edge of destitution than probably they know or that they've experienced. And this has opened that up of people that just were like, I've always gone to work and now I can't go to work, or there is no work. And then there's other people that have had their best year ever. I mean, there's businesses that have flourished through this.
Yeah.
And of course, stock markets have flourished in different things.
Yeah, so, but if you own stock, you got to own stock for the stock market to count, right?
Only like 20 or 30% of Americans are even own any stock. Yeah. So there's things. I mean, we have to look at this as a societal issue and a local issue. But to me, the sad part is I don't know if we have the leadership on both sides of the aisle to talk about these big questions. Yeah. There's too much animosity for there to be good answers to come out.
But I guess this is another mistake I think we might be making. I have no faith in state leadership or federal leadership to do the stuff that needs to be done on our local level. I know that can happen if we court people, but it seems to me that on the local level, we have a lot more agency and ability. Why don't we do something? Why don't, you know what I'm saying? Like this conversation today, and
I think that is true. It's empowering people to be just, a title gives you a certain amount. Like, I mean, if you're a president or governor or mayor or CEO of a major company, but we can all be leaders in our community. We can all give back. We can all make a difference. We can all help others. And, but that also takes, getting out and doing. I mean, you can't binge Netflix all day and then also make a difference in the world. I mean, so it's a little bit of everything, I mean.
Well, I think you also said something that's really important, because I'm a social scientist by trade, and the U.S. really needs a healthy middle class, I would argue, because it keeps the impoverished from rebelling against the affluent. I think this is another critique of just social services, whether they're state or private, is that you can't let people get too hopeless. So you need to keep their nose above water, because if they have absolutely nothing to lose, they burn stuff down. They start taking stuff out because, again, they're hopeless, they're in despair. And so, there's I think a pretty good argument, especially with state social services, that it's really about maintaining a situation so it doesn't become too volatile. And what we've seen, it seems like to me, is the shrinking middle class.
We have a loading middle class.
Yeah, which is the buffer, right?
and working class too, of people.
Yeah.
And and like also with COVID, the mental health crisis that we're seeing from the stress of this, whether it's drug and opioid addiction, whether it's depression, whether it's the stress of bills and job, or worrying whether you're going to catch the virus or share the virus.
Yeah.
We're all, it's okay to not be okay right now. And I think we have to look at ourselves and where we're at and talk, and destigmatize mental health, because we are all suffering from mental health right now with what we've experienced the last year.
This is the funny thing, is that the working class and the poor folks of my life who have such a different outlook about this, I don't think they've been traumatized like the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? Because this is, I'll put it a different way. When we had the housing crisis, I remember talking to a friend of mine in my neighborhood. I live in a kind of working class neighborhood. And I was like, so what do you think of the recession? And they go, what recession? And that's not, you're right. Like the suicide rates right now among white folks in particular is off the chain. People are stressed. There's just this constant chronic anxiety and malaise of like, when we're going to get relief from this and when can we get back to normal? But I think that
people live with that every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and a lot of government programs, once you make a certain amount, you lose all the benefits.
Exactly.
And it needs to be a lot more staggered to help people a little bit, instead of, well, if you're at this level, you get 20 things, but if you get to this level, we take all those things away.
Yeah.
And so that's way above my pay grade and thought process. But
it's a point we ran into in one of the nonprofits here, is that people are incentivized not to make more money oftentimes, because at least it used to be this way in public housing here, for example. So in public housing here, when I did work in those communities, one of the things I suggested to my agency, not only should we hire folks, but we should pay consulting fees when they come and offer us their insight about their community. And again, we should be taking direction from them. But one of the things we found out about is if we paid them a consulting fee, because we were all getting paid, right? We're at work or we're having a lunch meeting, we're on the clock. Again, it was an act of mutual respect. And again, just working to let folks know that we actually work for them and should be taking leadership from them. The problem was it changed their income, which then challenged Medicaid, which challenged a variety of other things. So in a way, there's no way out, right? Because there's not a grace period to build a safety net to kind of jump out into something different, And I found that incredibly frustrating. I learned so much from that work, and what I was guilty of in many ways, especially working with low income folks who happen to all be Black, was that I did have a certain amount of racism going into their community. Not that I was overtly racist or anything, but there was this part of me, if I'm honest, and I got challenged about it publicly one day, that I thought I knew what they needed. I literally had a community member, this mom who was kind of an elder in the community and kind of looked out after a bunch of kids. And she goes, "Why are you here?" And I had to say, "Well, I work for," no, she goes, "Why are you here? What do you know about our community? Like, where do you live? How much money?" She just like asked all these.
See that? We don't think about it here. Like, you feel like what another area of Lowndes County or County may need because we live close. But that has been a big realization in very effective nonprofits that serve other countries. When you go into, whether it's Somalia or Kenya or Egypt or wherever, and you go and ask them, well, we really need 3 wells dug, or we really need toilets, or we need chickens and goats, and then we can build from that, and figuring out what they, instead of coming in and saying, this is what we're going to build for you, a new playground. Well, they may not need, they need fresh water and a well dug and go along. So I think you are seeing that a lot more. in other countries, but it's hard for us not to feel like we know what's best that's just 10 miles away from us, because we are so local. But you're exactly right. And it's asking people, what do you need and how do we go about doing it? Because the resources are there. I mean,
but they're there for those of us that know how to write a grant and get them.
well, that's right. But we all have, I mean, I feel like there's money, there's resources, there's food, there's clothing. If there's more communication and collaboration of how to move it around, because I mean, you just, and a lot of that, I mean, we're in an information world now and a relationship world. And a lot of people, it's about how do you get to the information or how do you get to those needs? And so what we want to try to do is make those easier. Just like if, you know, Publix has a large shipment of Lysol in and they can let me know, then I can save these agencies from going up there 4 times a day, being told no, and go, hey, now is the time to go up there. They've set some aside. And so, you know, just to make things smoother.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and what you're kind of talking about is gatekeeping. Like that's the thing I kind of realized, and again, I would love to talk with you about this more over a beer, like, because, you know, when I listen to the mayor's show, and I don't want to badmouth the mayor or anything, you know, I often hear like charitable organizations, predominantly white folks that are servicing poor Black or poor white communities, and it is this kind of client service provider relationship instead of a human relationship. You know what I mean? Like, there is something when we started changing things in that particular nonprofit. I remember the day I walked into a meeting at Hudson Docket with a bunch of moms and told them what I made a year, you know, and it wasn't much. It was like $30,000, but that's a whole lot of money to a lot of folks, right? When I started just saying, look, I work for y'all, you know, our organization. Not only that, if you're not here, our organization doesn't exist. You know, we should be taking direction from you. And there was a bunch of work to even work through that with folks that are just kind of grappling to get through the day. But at the same time, I discovered that their analysis was so much more sophisticated, and what they needed was so off base of not only what we were providing, but how we were providing it. And
and that's something that we want to be more of the United Way of our area in South Georgia, not just Valdosta focused. We want to help Eccles County and Lanier and Berrien Brooks, and we need to learn what they need and the relationships they need and build on that from the business and with the community side, because what Eccles needs is different than what Nashville, Georgia needs.
Yeah.
And so, and that's where Family Connections come in across the state. Family Connections is a great organization that really knows their communities, and we partner with that. But a lot of it's just trying to listen and learn before you tell, you know, and tell somebody what they need. And we're open to all suggestions, and we're trying to have a more diverse board. We're trying to have better relationships. We try, you know, we're doing this one thing I'm really proud of. We partnered with Georgia Power, CBC, and the Fanning Institute. We've got this nonprofit training over the next 4 weeks, and we offered it free to any nonprofits. And we have some super small nonprofits to some giant ones, because we all need to be better, all learn and be better run nonprofits, so that we can help more people. So we want to not just help our partner agencies, we want to help all the nonprofits that are doing good work and trying to make a difference in the community the best we can. And that's why our back building, we reconverted it. It's the Jenkins Nonprofit Community Center. Any nonprofit can use it as a space, just signing a waiver to have a board meeting, a lunch. The Georgia Department of Labor was doing GED testing while it was closed downtown during COVID, and we had a food pantry back there and was giving out diapers. So a lot of nonprofits don't have a good spot to meet, so they can meet on our facility.
Where are you guys located?
1609 North Patterson, right across from main campus. Okay. The Latin Association of Valdosta has their meetings back there. We've had some leadership lounge meetings, Red Cross meetings. So any nonprofit can use that space. Like I said, we were doing those COVID grants for small nonprofits to help with PPE. So we want to be, even though we partner with 20, I mean, I would love to be able to somewhat say we helped, 50 nonprofits throughout the year in different ways.
Yeah. Do you solicit PPE? Do you ask for it?
I mean, we have through government and federal stuff, and then also through, Target and Publix and stuff like that.
So, but do you approach them?
Yeah.
The reason I ask, I'm gonna throw somebody under the bus.
Okay.
I think you ought to approach JD Weatherington.
Oh, John Dennis?
Yeah.
With Napa?
Yeah, he's got PPE.
Okay, I'll reach out to him. We grew up together. I know him well, but I haven't talked to him about it. But most of the people now have thermometers. Were a tough thing to come by for the Boys and Girls Club and the Y. Most are pretty good now. It's gloves, I would say right now is the toughest thing for people to find. For our partner agencies are needing gloves, but Lysol and stuff like that has been pretty, and bleach has been pretty available now. But
well, and there's is it CBH or CBJ Industries?
They gave us 80 gallons of hand sanitizers.
Yeah, Genie. What's it?
Yeah, they support the United Way, and we actually sent some to other United Ways for them to distribute, and we gave some out to the schools and different things. So yeah, I mean, that's where it's about businesses giving back how they can, and how, CJB can help is how Miller Hardware or Publix can help. And that's what the beauty of it is just businesses and individuals giving how they can,
So now that you've been in the seat for 3 years, I mean, you've had a hell of a 2 years. You've had a hell of a second year. Like, what do you foresee for this year?
Well, our goal is to get to $1 million campaign. We want to get more businesses giving and doing, either a workforce campaign or giving back. And we really push either give to the United Way, give through the United Way, or give directly to partner agencies.
Right. And you can designate what agency you want, right?
Yes. And we're very unique. If you designate to a partner agency, 100% of that money flows through us to them. So like somebody like a Georgia Power can write one big check, give a little bit to all 20 agencies, and it all flow through. So that's good. We take no admin fee on designated money to partner agencies. So we want to help and give back, but we want to get more people volunteering. But we want to take a step and have some tough conversations, like you said, about what the needs are, where the needs are most. I would like for you to look at, we just posted this child well-being index. It's on our website. It covers our 5 counties. Atlanta has been using this, and now we're one of the 12 United Ways that are rolling this out. Eventually, we want to cover the whole state, and it's a scoring of green, yellow, and red about 30 metrics of, like you said, child nutrition, single family, low income, to see those adverse conditions and what they are. I mean, whether there's internet access, education access. So you can see our 5 counties, and you can see where the needs are the greatest, where maybe, and now Atlanta's had it so long that they can say, well, this community was a 60, now they're a 70.
Right. Yeah, does it have a kind of benchmark?
Yeah, I mean, you have Albany, Savannah, the Statesboro area, Augusta. There's 12 of us regions that are in the first rollout, and we were part of it. And so we want to share that data with school systems and chambers, and hopefully eventually it covers the whole state, and we can talk to state politicians and leaders about, and you kind of know where the issues are or where money needs to be extra invested, but it's makes it easier when you look at it. And it's used census data and other data and reading efficiency levels and testing levels. So you probably will understand it honestly a lot better than I.
Well, there's the American Household Survey that's really good data for that
it's
stuff.
Under our impact on our website, and we same thing, United Way. We had the data back in like late December, January, but we decided now as a state to wait till after the election to really roll this out because nobody was going to hear about it anyway.
Yeah.
So Atlanta's going to be pushing it. We'll be marketing and saying, look at it, use it, tell us how we can help, and make a difference. So we just posted it this week, actually. So
good. Well, if you ever need a social scientist to look at stuff or do evaluation research, let me know. Because if I can't do it, I've got tons of colleagues that
and we would like to have interns. And yes, that is so important. The sociology, the psychology background, the anthropology, that really fascinates me. Like I said, I was a finance major and I know marketing and management, but human behavior affects everything.
Sounds good. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before I let you go? I appreciate you carving out an hour and 10 minutes of time today.
No, I mean, really just, come by, see our office, check out our website, connect with us, and just kind of let us be the point of the spear of how you can connect with these partner agencies of what they need, what issues they're facing. The more information they tell me, the more I can be prepared. Like, Lamps right now is looking for some commercial washer and dryers. They really need some good commercial grade washer and dryers. And so we're trying to help. They're trying to help. I mean, so if there's a company that could donate or give, that's what they need right now. But then, the food bank is going to have different issues. Salvation Army, was looking for a nice freezer a while back. So those are those little things when I'm talking to donors or the community and say, and that's something else we're looking at. We haven't announced this yet, but depending on the money and the allocation, we're giving out more money this year than last year. So we're moving in the right direction. We gave out a lot for COVID and utility assistance. We're also looking to put a block of money to help with those extra things, whether it's like a washer and dryer for a partner agency, whether they need 2 new laptops or something to process claims and issues better, so that they can come to us, because there's a lot of things that state and federal dollars won't buy. Our hiccups come up and you need, something purchased. So we're looking.
Do they have wish list anywhere?
It'll kind of be like that. It'll kind of be like that. And I mean, we're not going to be able to buy somebody a van, but
no. But I was just wondering if each agency had their kind of wish list in a public place. So
that would be a good idea. I think that needs to be established or something. And like you said, a lot of things with COVID, it was a lot of PPE, but it was also, hey, we need web cameras for 20 computers.
Yeah.
We need some laptops so we can have people work from home. I mean, if you hadn't had a good mobile presence and web presence before this, you had a hard time connecting with your donor base then. So a lot of people had to speed up their effectiveness, and some were prepared more than others. But I am really proud of how much the nonprofit world responded, just like our healthcare workers, our community came together, Valdosta and Lowndes working together. A lot of nonprofits figured out a way to still help people. Now, and so I'm very proud of that, but there's still a lot of people that have fallen through a lot of the cracks, and it is sad. And the people that I would say have fallen through the hardest have been the elderly, because they're not technologically based. They don't know where the resources or the online applications. It's hard to connect with them. Yeah. A lot of times they're prideful people that have survived the Depression and worked hard, or World War II, and so they're not going to ask unless they truly need it.
Right.
So our seniors have really been isolated and really alone in this, more so than other demographics.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it on the phone. Our concern of folks that are shut in or don't have transportation, making sure they get vaccinations. And I hope the public health folks are talking about that. I don't know if they are or not.
I think there is. And I mean, really, we got to rely on churches. And that's where we want to build business, individual, government, nonprofit, and the faith community really working together and trying to row in the same direction. Because everybody has their relationships, everybody has their expertise, but this problem is bigger than what government can fix or expecting the business world to fix it. It's going to take all of us communicating and working together to hopefully make Valdosta and South Georgia a great place to live and work.
Yeah. And it's not over, right?
No, we may be towards the end of the virus issue, but we're just at the beginning of the economic issues and mental health and lack of education issues that kids have missed out on this is going to be a decade problem,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Michael, thank you, man. I've enjoyed it. It's been good getting to know you. I appreciate you making time, and thank you for what you're doing.
And please come by the office. And like I said, let's grab lunch and talk. And any advice you have, I've got a lot to learn, but I got a great board and great staff. And the United Way gives us a lot of resources too. So
sounds good. Well, I'll stop this thing. Thanks again.